This is a massive moment, a unimaginably huge change of attitude, an unimaginably huge change of global politics, in my opinion. It spells that the American hegemony is in its final stage.
Israel's Prime Minister and Defense Minister were put on notice that they could face prosecution at the International Criminal Court.
The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder.
This evening, Israel's Prime Minister called it a distortion of reality, a form of new anti-Semitism.
Prosecutor in The Hague, with what audacity do you dare compare the monsters of Hamas to the soldiers of the IDF, the most moral army in the world? With what audacity do you compare Hamas, that murdered, burned, butchered, raped and kidnapped our brothers and sisters, and the IDF soldiers who...
The most moral army in the world. This is anti-Semitism. Saying that our best democracy, the best apartheid anyone has ever seen, is actually an apartheid and bad. He's not talking English now. Yeah, I mean, because he's chirping to the Israeli audience here. Okay, how dare you? Oh, it's so good. God, I love this so much. This is why I suited up and booted up, baby. Whoo! Listen, the most moral army in the world, okay? When the most moral army in the world is raising Gaza in an act of unjustifiable violence, okay? Raising Gaza, killing tens of thousands of children and women and elderly and men, civilians, destroying any matter of like civil infrastructure, killing their own hostages, waving white flags directly with gunfire, killing hostages with rocket fire for the crime of being in the vicinity of Palestinians that they want to kill. It's just they were always doing it in a moral way, okay? You don't understand, guys. You don't understand. When Israel was killing hostages, pretty much every single one of them that hasn't been released at this point, okay, and killing their own soldiers and killing anyone and everyone, really. It's a kill zone. They were doing it in a moral way. They were doing it in a moral way, and you guys don't understand it, okay? It takes a high IQ to understand how moral the Israeli army is, okay? You just don't get it.
Who are fighting a just war that is unparalleled in morality.
I've seen a lot of discourse saying that the ICJ both sides the ruling. I know Hamas said it would welcome and cooperate with the arrest, but don't you think that more Israeli government officials should be held accountable? Smotrich, Ben-Gvir evade culpability? Yes. I think that in a fully, I mean, I've said this before, in a fully just and even approach to this conflict, yes, a ton more Israeli leaders, Israeli soldiers, Israeli generals would be prosecuted. And yes, there certainly would be Al-Qassam brigade commanders and Hamas militants in general and Hamas leadership in general, Islamic Jihad leadership in general, that would also be investigated and prosecuted for the war crimes that they committed. Because the reality is that, yes, October 7 was filled to the brim with war crimes. Like, that's crazy. The idea that no war crimes occurred on October 7 is ridiculous, okay? It is not something that I believe. It is something that I have openly said time and time again. Now, of course, that is very different from the inception of why this kind of violence occurs, which is if we are being even-headed and being honest and reasonable, you would arrive at the same conclusion that I have arrived at on October 8th, which is that the occupying entity sets the standard of violence, and therefore 75 years of oppression, 75 years of struggle against that oppression is, of course, always going to inevitably yield very violent retaliation. Now, here's the thing. The ICC going after going after Israeli leadership is unimaginable. I cannot think of a single instance in the history of the ICC or the ICJ as well, but certainly in the ICC, where someone who is an active collaborator with the American government, that is getting political cover from the American government, that has ever been prosecuted like this, that has ever had even an application for their arrest warrants, ever. Sure, maybe there might be like a person who did collaborate with the Americans at a certain point that we no longer have use for, that might have an arrest warrant later down the line, but not actively while they are currently engaging in the acts, the violent acts, and certainly not while America is offering open political cover for said acts. This is a massive moment, a unimaginably huge change of attitude, an unimaginably huge change of global politics, in my opinion. It spells that the American hegemony is in its final stage, okay? Before Putin, it was literally only 47 Africans they prosecuted. Like, this is massively important, in my opinion. Massively important. And not because, like, I think that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to go to jail or anything. I don't think that, like, Interpol is going to arrest him. They're going to intercept his travel and arrest him alongside, like, Yoav Gallant and you know, prosecute him and he's going to go to jail or some shit. I don't believe that at all. I do not personally believe that that is going to happen. I do, however, think that, like I said, the not to be too much of an optics guy, but I do believe that the optics of this situation spells trouble for the American State Department. Like, they have to see the writing on the wall. It will also massively impact Israel's ability to conduct diplomacy if the arrest warrants are issued, as they won't be able to travel to Rome Statute signatory nations. The U.S. isn't a signatory. However, if they are voted out, the next Israeli leadership won't likely be affected. Yeah, this is something that I brought up. This is something that I brought up literally like on October 10. Okay, it goes back to Zionist arrogance. It goes back to Zionist entitlement. And it goes back to all of the violence that is happening as a consequence of those opinions, as a consequence of that mentality, that fascist mentality running rampant through every aspect of Israeli governance. Okay? This has created, and this is not just me saying this, okay? I'm some random dickhead Twitch streamer. Make no mistake. There are people in the American State Department whose only interest is not like saving Palestinian lives by any means. Like, they don't give a shit about that at all. But whose only interest is the continuation of American empire, who also saw this reality. That if they continue without any restraint whatsoever, giving the go-ahead to Israel, that this would actually shake the standing and the confidence that the international community has in America's control, America's global dominance and America's control. That's what's happening here, okay? What you are watching right now, what is unfolding in front of our eyes, is a very serious change in attitude and in enforcement. Think about that. Israeli Foreign Minister Katz asked AIPAC leaders to work with Congress against the ICC decision. Open foreign interference in American domestic affairs, American foreign policy. Bibi and Gallant are the only targets because, one, people like the Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi and Shin Bet head Ronan Bar have already announced their retirement. Two, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich are not in the war cabinet, only on the National Security Cabinet, which influences the war less directly. And three, Gantz, who is in the war cabinet, it just isn't as inflammatory and is considered an alternative. It's America's guy, by the way. That's the other thing. Benny Gantz, who is a war criminal as well for prior incursions and prior sieges, war crimes that he actually flexed when he was running against Benjamin Netanyahu, mind you, is America's guy in the room. They want Benny Gantz to be the new liberal Zionist that will lead the apartheid and will manufacture consent and basically massage the narrative so that it's easier for all of our mainstream outlets to continue running the same exact propaganda for Israel. Benny Gantz is also announcing that he'll leave the government if a no day after plan passes till June 8th. It's all political, but that's it. Yes. Does Invade the Hague Act apply to Israel too? Let's continue.
Ismail Haniyeh.
There are reasonable grounds to believe that these three Hamas leaders are criminally responsible for the killing of Israeli civilians in attacks perpetrated by Hamas and other armed groups on the 7th.
Can I just say once again, bald men reign supreme. Bald men on top again. I hate to be that guy, but honestly, bald men strike, and they strike pretty hard. Okay.
7th of October, 2023.
Look at how serious they are, by the way. This goes kind of hard. I have to admit, this goes kind of hard. They're like, very disappointed in the way that Israel has conducted itself. Very disappointing. Bald's not bothered by the tribulations of hairstyles. Giga Haas, more brain power. True.
The taking of hostages and the other crimes alleged in our applications.
Hamas denounced the decision, saying the prosecutor was equating the victim with the executioner. When Vladimir Putin was hit with an ICC arrest warrant over Ukraine, it immediately meant travel to any signatory to the Rome Statute. China, not one of them, risked possible arrest. For now, no such risk for Benjamin Netanyahu, at least not until a panel of judges rules on the prosecutor's request. Britain, an ICC member, has called the move unhelpful. President Biden has labelled it outrageous. Legal experts say a decision on the warrants could come within weeks.
Well, I'm joined now by the barrister Toby Cadman, who specialises in international criminal and human rights law. There's an argument over whether the ICC has jurisdiction here. The Americans, Israelis and Britain are saying they don't. How does it have jurisdiction when Israel isn't a signatory and Palestine isn't a state?
Well, first of all, one of the things that we've heard today is there was the report by the panel of experts, and one of the things that they've looked at very, very carefully is the question of jurisdiction. Very clearly declares that Palestine is a state for the purpose of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, and has stated that the attacks in Gaza, which Karim Khan has referred to as a complete siege of Gaza, is part of an international armed conflict, and the attacks by Hamas in Israel.
Oh shit!
Prosecutor.
CNN interviewed him. Oh my God, Christian Amanpour. What is happening right now? There are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where decades happen.
But if we look
I
at
hope I'm not like hyping this up too much, okay? Among 124 countries, Germany is a signatory to the Rome Statute. Would they arrest Bibi? Are they obliged to? Well, that would be awesome. What makes it even funnier is that the bald guy was Israel's choice to be the lead, to be the head prosecutor. America also petitioned for him to be the head prosecutor.
So they can say that even though Palestine isn't an internationally recognised state, for the purposes of the court, it is. That's going to sound odd to people.
Well, no. I mean, effectively, what they're saying is they're confirming that Palestine is a state. Now, if we go back to 2015, when Palestine ratified the Rome Statute, and then 2018, when it...
I think you're hyping this up too much, unfortunately. Guys, I don't think that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to get arrested, okay? Calm down. I've never said that I personally believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to get packed up, or Yoav Gallant. I'm simply stating that this is a change of pace, at least for the time being, a major change of pace from the way that international organs of justice have operated as an arm of American imperialism. The fact that they are even petitioning to start the arrest warrant process, the fact that they're even applying for it is unironically a major shift. You have to remember, it's about pressure on all fronts. Okay? You can literally look at each individual. You can look at each individual protest and go, oh, well, this doesn't seem to be that big. That doesn't seem, what are the college protests doing? What are the people like blocking the roads doing? And it's like, they all play a formative role. They play a significant role in creating new vectors of pressure Okay, it builds momentum, it galvanizes the protesters, it reminds people that, like, you know, what they're doing is correct. It gives people the moral courage to go out and demonstrate. And all of those demonstrations basically lead into a buildup. No, this is a reflection of our society currently. It's for the galleries. The reason why, when the ICC put out an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin due to war crimes in Bucha specifically, and also his unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine, the reason why we did not, like, I didn't think of it as anything super significant was because he is already outside of the sphere of influence of America. He is already a foreign adversary, okay? That was a correct decision from the ICC, mind you. But that doesn't really matter. That is inconsequential because that is just the court operating alongside American interests. This is perhaps one of the first instances where the court is operating against American interests. It's huge. That's why I always say sanctions often don't work against foreign adversaries, but do work against our allies because our allies do not suspect it. They do not craft their entire economy and the entire mode of existence around potentially getting sanctioned by the United States of America in the way that, like, countries outside of the sphere of influence of the United States and the Western world do.
Referred itself to the International Criminal Court. The prosecutor at that time took the rather extraordinary step of asking a panel of the pretrial judges to determine whether the Office of the Prosecutor had jurisdiction over what happened in Palestine. And the panel of judges clearly said that it does.
So does this mean that if an arrest warrant is granted, any country that is a signatory to the ICC would have an obligation to arrest Netanyahu if he sets foot in their country?
Absolutely, yes. It's very clearly what it means.
So this could massively restrict his ability to act as an international leader?
It could and it should, yes.
And, I mean, why wouldn't that arrest warrant be granted? You know, what would be the argument against it, given the prosecutor has applied, saying there's a case to answer?
I mean, it's certainly not going to be a question of jurisdiction, because that question has clearly been answered. And just to be clear, is that the jurisdictional question, Palestine as a state, so any crimes that are committed on the territory of Palestine.
Can't stress enough that this is just the application. It could take months for the court to decide. However, oh my God, will I be the happiest lad in the land if Bibi and Sarah Netanyahu will no longer be able to go to their retirement vacations in Europe? One of Bibi's corruption cases has to do with bribery via hundreds and hundreds of expensive champagne bottles. And now he may have to drink all of them alone in his basement instead of abroad. Yeah. This is an application. It could get denied still. I will talk about, like, the worst outcomes and the best outcomes in a little bit. I'm just giving you guys more background. Okay, we're going to get there. Hold on.
Palestine falls within its jurisdiction, and any crimes committed by a Palestinian national in Israel would also fall within its jurisdiction. So it's not going to be a question of jurisdiction. It's an evidential question. And certainly what we've seen so far, what has been said by Karim Khan today, and what we've been seeing for the last few months, very clearly, there is a very strong evidential base.
This is not both sizing it, robber guy, man. That you are susceptible to the right-wing framing on the issue if you think this is both sizing it. I know I've seen a lot of people criticize the ICC decision here for also putting Palestinian resistance group leaders in the application in and of itself. The reality of the matter is there were war crimes committed. Sure, in an act of resistance against an apartheid state, ultimately, but war crimes nonetheless. In order for an international organ of justice to truly remain impartial in this process, they are, of course, going to do this as well, especially because they are, in my opinion, right now, going on a tightrope. But this goes back to another really scary potential scenario that I have in my mind, which I will talk about in a little bit. Just wait.
For those arrest warrants to be granted.
I mean, we have seen in the past arrest warrants not being enforced by South Africa, most recently. So does this end up being any more than grandstanding if nobody arrests them?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's grandstanding. Of course, what Karim Khan has done, and again, he's taken the rather extraordinary step of making this public now, which is something he didn't do with the Putin arrest warrant. But of course,
I think it's crazy they wouldn't. The prosecutor himself said he would undermine the entire process and institution if they were selective in its applications, especially given the war crimes on October 7th. Yes. Resistance leaders called them terrorists. Well, what are you talking about? I'm not considering Israel to be resistance leaders. Israel are the terrorists in this situation. Just like I called the top of your ad break. God damn it. Oh, no. Okay. You. Damn it. God damn it, you got me. You got me with a double bait, too. You got me in a double bind, you piece of shit. Calm like a Tom, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Allowing 20 people to resist against the top of the hour ad break. Echoplex, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. If you also want to no longer see those ads, and you're not lucky enough to get gifted a sub, then all you need to do is subscribe on your own for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that is me. Here is the 3-minute ad break. Now, Kami Cole, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Is the scary outcome that the entire Western world throws out the idea that ICC and UN altogether, completely illegitimating the institution, because that's all I see happening from at least US, UK, and Germany? No, that's not the scary outcome. No, I don't. If the ICC doesn't actually move forward with this prosecution, they're already an illegitimate entity anyway. They are not doing what they're supposed to, which is prosecute war criminals for their war crimes. So obviously, it doesn't fucking matter. Now, what you need to understand here, and I know we're going to talk about Lindsey Graham chirping too. God, it's so sweet. It's so sweet how fucking angry they are. It makes me so happy. Oh, it makes me so fucking happy to see them chirping, dude. How do you even resist then without committing some degree of war crimes? Do you want them to be polite and tiptoe their way around apartheid? The shitty-ass UN conventions are designed specifically to enable continued colonial relations to punish only domestic crimes, since they were made in response to Nazi Germany doing crimes against their own European population, not their colonies. I don't think you understand my point, okay? Like, there are things that you do that would be considered bad and wrong, and then there are things that you do that go beyond that. Civilian population centers being targeted would be a thing that goes above and beyond, okay? Especially in an offensive posture. I understand, I understand the animosity that people feel towards the ICC for this moment, in this specific moment, but like, there are certain things that you are not allowed to do. It can actually move the conversation in a positive direction ultimately, but it still doesn't change the reality that there are actions that are ultimately unacceptable being taken by resistance groups. Anyway, I will get to all of this in a second. Let me just finish this, please. I beg of you.
He's hopeful, as we've heard from him today, that this will have more of a preventative effect to prevent further crimes from being committed. We've also heard from Netanyahu, and we've been listening to Israeli leaders with this rhetoric over the past few weeks that nothing will stop them. But of course, what it does mean is that...
But doesn't your title also point out the ICC is also pursuing Hamas? Because that's not a very interesting part of this conversation. Hamas is already considered a terror organization. The International Criminal Court pursuing a terror organization that is outside of American interests, outside of the American sphere of influence, is not unique, is not news. Dog bites man is not news. Man bites dog, that's fucking news. Okay? I don't know if I have to walk you through this like a baby. I don't know if you recognize this. Hamas, a terror organization, that's brave of you. What? Oh God, why do all the fucking Redditors have this exact same way of like typing? And they're just like, Hamas, a terror organization? That's brave of you. Fucking got him. Thanks, man. Seems like you weren't really interested in understanding why I do certain things and simply we're in here to just be a smarmy little asshole. Okay, let's continue.
The warrants issued by the International Criminal Court, we have seen what happened in South Africa with al-Bashir. I think it's unlikely that we would see the same. What almost certainly will happen will be European states, predominantly European states who are members of the ICC, will try to deter Netanyahu and his defense minister from actually traveling to those countries because they would be obligated to arrest.
Right. Toby Cadman, thank you very much indeed.
I mean, the term both-sidism, as I understand it, is it applies to political rhetoric and communication when in asymmetrical conflicts, people rhetorically equate two sides with widely different degrees of power. Don't think it really applies when discussing decisions of international legal bodies. Maybe our brain has been a little broken by that phrase. Yeah. The systemic rape charges would have to be substantiated at the ICC. They won't be able to rely on heresy. Yeah, that's the other aspect of this as well. And as far as I understand, there's only one instance of like first-hand accounts, and the idea or hearsay. Okay, well, regardless, there's the idea that this is like top-down directed beyond like the New York Times reporting Screams Without Violence, which was like which was literally criticized by a shit ton of academics and journalists for the horrible way in which they conducted themselves throughout that supposed piece of investigative reporting. It's beyond that. They need like substantive evidence, right? And having said that, there could be there probably is more evidence on multiple sexual assaults. This is a common occurrence in times of conflict in general. However, to direct it back to like some kind of command structure where they are like purposely saying like, yeah, rape them, like mass rapes committed in the name of resistance or whatever, is going to need a shit ton more evidence to substantiate a claim such as that one. And I don't think they have it, but you know, what do I know? I am not bald, nor am I heading the ICC. Why isn't the United States a member of the ICC or the Rome Statute? Because we do war crimes a lot. And we also literally have it in our law, we have it within our legal framework to actually invade Netherlands if they ever do choose to prosecute us. You know, you already have a bunch of psychopathic American congresspersons already threatening the International Criminal Court. Yet another day of America bad with Hassan. We are surely having a real hard time shaking off the narrative that we are the bad guys. America doesn't recognize the International Criminal Court, but the court sure as hell will recognize what happens when you target our allies.